Hey Mike, talk to me about 3D printing. Well, let's do that today. Hey guys, and welcome to today's video. I know it's been a little while since I actually put a video out, but today we're going to kind of go back to the basics, to some questions that I honestly have been getting asked a lot lately. And with that, we're going to go over the 5, to me, most frequently asked questions that I get asked about 3D printing. We're going to cover kind of more the beginner level, so kind of keep that in mind as we just kind of talk about 3D printing and what it takes to get into the hobby, and just cover, we're only going through 5 questions. That's it, 5. But for someone who's not in the hobby, this may be the video that gets you into it. Determines if you actually want to do this. And that's kind of why this video is important for someone like me who's been 3D printing for years versus someone that's just now, the hobby's caught their attention. Or if you have been doing it and you get asked these questions, maybe we have different answers. So if I do, I want you to put your answer in the comments down below, because I'm curious to hear what you say too to these questions. So 5 questions, we're going to break them down, we're going to talk about each one, and then we're going to move forward. So guys, if you're new here and you're just getting started or you're interested in this content, hit that subscribe button and join the team. As we're a growing channel, we're just about to cross 7,200 subscribers. That warms my heart to see that number. So I appreciate everybody that joins. Make sure you give a thumbs up to the video, give this video a like, because that just helps us out and helps the video get seen by more people, where the video could be very helpful to somebody. So keep that in mind as well. And also, questions. Put them down in the comments down below, so because those comments not only help me make better videos, they help the community, and that's what we're all about. And if you want to back the channel, consider becoming a member. The membership button down there is down there. There's 4 tiers. It gives you access to the Discord server and all that kind of stuff to kind of hang out with me. And as we grow, more features will be added. And also, if you want to support the channel, consider going out to rise3dprintingshop.com and take a look around the store. You might see some of the models that you've seen built on this channel. So with that, let's hop over to these 5 questions. The first question that I want to tackle today is 3D printing expensive? So that is a loaded gun, and I'm going to break it into 2 pieces, FDM or resin. Let's start with FDM. So you could potentially get started into FDM 3D printing for about $200. Wow, $200, an Ender 3 and a spool of filament, and I'm in and I'm printing. That's just the start, guys. That's to get your printer and get your first full spool of filament. You still need free software, you still need a computer. Some of the newer printers, I know it's all app-based on your phone, but honestly, you're going to want the computer, you're going to want Cura or Simplified 3D or something like that to slice your files your way. So, can it be expensive? Yes, you can totally make it expensive. You could go out there and start with a CRM4, spend $1,100, and go buy Simplified 3D for $150 or whatever that is now, and really just start racking up the dollar signs and not have printed a thing. Don't do that. Start small, start simple. Start with the Ender 3, start with the Focus Odin 5, start with the smaller printer. Cut your teeth on it. Then, once you've kind of found your groove, you know what you're doing, then go up to that bigger boy, because those bigger boys, they're their own problems in themselves. So kind of keep that in mind. But yes, 3D printing filament, $200 to $300. Let's call it that. Resin. Let's hop over to that one. So resin, that one's a tough one to get started for under $500. Now, if you go for one of the older 4K style machines, yes, you can get started there. But you also need to keep in mind, you're going to have more chemicals. Resin is more expensive than FDM. So you're going to have a higher cost. And it's a lot more messy, because you don't just need the printer. You need washing, curing. You need all these extra pieces to make your print process. Where FDM, it's heat, it's filament, it's done, it's done. So you have to go, it's a step process, and it can be far more expensive. Now, especially if you look at things like the frozen printers that have a higher shipping cost, different things like that, you can get a really good resin printer for about that $500 price point. Curing wash and cure station, they're going to run you about $100 to $200 price point. So you can get in under that $500 mark with an older, lower resolution machine and a wash and cure station. But all in all, it is a bit more pricey. The resin I use runs anywhere between $40 to $50 a bottle for 1 kg worth of resin. So kind of keep that in mind. The costs are higher for resin. And in all honesty, when I started 3D printing, I started with FDM. I learned and understood the 3D printing, and then I made the transition to resin. But with that comes the question of, what are you wanting to print? If you're wanting to do cosplay armor and different things like that, FDM's your friend. If you're wanting to 3D print minis and stuff for tabletop games and different things like that, resin is your friend. So can you do it on FDM? Yes, but it's a lot harder, and it's a lot harder to get the ultra sharp detail for that mini that you can with resin. So kind of keep that in mind. You got to think about where you want to go, and we're going to probably talk about that more in another question. So let's hop over to the second question. Is 3D printing hard? That question is such a loaded gun. It doesn't have to be. It's very easy to get started. Where it gets hard is when the prints fail and you don't know why, and you gotta troubleshoot. The biggest tip I tell anybody about 3D printing, the biggest top tools that you need is patience and problem solving skills. Those two skills will make 3D printing, while it can be the most annoying thing you ever do, it can make it worth it. Because you can look for the problems, you can find the problems and diagnose it. Now sometimes the machine's a mechanical issue. Sometimes it's the filament is too damp. It could be, the temperature of the room is wrong. It can be a lot of things that make a print fail, or a wire gets snagged and your heated bed no longer heats, or different things like that. So can it be hard? Yes. Yes, it can. But with some patience, some thought, and a good community, you can solve a lot of these problems, and it works pretty well. And it's kind of a fun thing to do. Now, I know there's members out here that, we exchange emails on printer problems. Some of the printer problems I can help with. Some of them on a printer that I've never seen or done, it's hard for me to help, but I try. I try to give common issues and solutions to make the printing process easier for everybody to get started in or have fun. But also, I know there's people out there who just don't want to do it. They want the mini, but they don't want to do it. And I do that too. They come to me with what they want printed. I take care of it. So, and I print it, and we have a good old time. Everybody's happy. So, now with that, trying to troubleshoot problems, my email is on the About page. Shoot me an email. Ask me the question. I'll help out. Because sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes the comments get buried. So kind of keep that in mind. But let's hop over to question number 3. So question number 3, we're jumping back to the FDM versus resin. And with that, what printer should I get? Well, really, it's not what printer should I get. It's what do I want to print? The print determines the printer, guys. So, as I said earlier in the video, if I want to print minis for my tabletop game, FDM's probably not where I want to go with that. Unless I'm making, 75mm or something. Then FDM will do a good job. If I'm wanting to do Warhammer, 28mm minis, yeah, I'm not going to use FDM for that. Now, terrain, yes. Minis, no. So, kind of one of those things. Keep in mind what you're going for. Now, printing a full suit of Mandalorian armor. Yeah, resin printer ain't going to work that great for you on that one. It's going to cost you a lot of money and FDM and time. FDM printer, I mean, my CRM4, I can print my entire chest plate, one piece. Hey, look at there, a big old chunk of it's done. So helmets, one piece, depending on what size the printer is and what size head you're printing it for. I've got a big head, so I tend to print them on the CR10 or the CRM4 or the CR10 Max. But that's just me. So kind of keep that in mind. Look at what you're wanting to print. Now, if you're wanting to print Christmas ornaments, depending on how intricate your design, you may actually want to go resin. Or if they're just pretty basic, you want filament. It just kind of depends on what you're wanting to print. So when thinking about getting into 3D printing, one of the things you want to ask yourself is, what do I want to print? Because that will help you determine the road that you want to get into. And to all my peeps out there that know this and are deep in this hobby with me, don't be ashamed to have multiple printers. I mean, I've got a room that is nothing but 3D printers in both realms because of what I print. I print everything from armor to awesome busts to oversized filament printed book stands. I mean, it's what you want to print to make you happy, or what you're wanting to do. Maybe you have a product design in mind, or you work somewhere that you're designing products, and you know, it's pretty nice to 3D model them and have them in your hand. So keep that in mind. FDM versus resin, guys, they both are good printing materials. Yes, resin, smaller, sharper. FDM, meant for big stuff. Just kind of keep that in mind. But even with FDM, you can get small and get detailed. So again, the question is what you want to print before you choose what material you print with, because that will help you learn what printer to go to. Now, again, I make the recommendation, I start on FDM. It's cleaner, it's less messy, it lets me get into the hobby and lets me kind of understand the process, and it's cheaper. And it's a great way to kind of cut your teeth. But if you want to go straight for those minis, then go straight for that resin printer, because that's going to be your friend. So let's hop over to question number 4. How do I get started with 3D modeling? Maybe you've been in 3D printing for a while and you want to start making your own stuff or making alterations to stuff to make it yours, right? So the market is just on what options are out there. So for me, if you're just starting and kind of want to learn the first little bits, Tinkercad is awesome. Some of the skills can be learned in Mesh Mixer if you can find the installer. Autodesk has very much gotten rid of that product, but it's still out there. The products that I use, you can use Blender. It's a great drawing software, and a lot of times you can find it for free. But also, like me right now, I use Autodesk Fusion 360. And I use ZBrush. ZBrush is a very big tool. When you launch ZBrush, if you pay for it, wow, buttons, lights everywhere, all kinds of stuff. But the training courses out there are really, really good. And I'm still learning about ZBrush and learning new tricks and stuff to go even faster. So, but you don't have to start with a paid software. There's plenty of free stuff out there with Blender and Tinkercad and all that kind of stuff. So don't always think you gotta go spend $1,000 to get started in this. You don't. So start with the freeware, build up to the paidware. That's a good way to go and a good way to learn it. So that's my recommendation for people that are just getting curious about it. People ask me what I use. Like I said, I use Fusion 360. And I use ZBrush. Those are my two main tools. So there you go on that one. Now let's hop to the final question. And this question may seem like a bit of criticism, but I'll explain why. It is a really good question. Now I said it was a comment, and the comment is 3D printing is just for toys. What's the practical use? The practical use. Well, let's be honest, 3D printing is in more places than what you know. 3D printing is in medicine. 3D printing, we're even printing food. And, you know, we're printing boats, we're printing car parts. We're printing more than toys. We're printing very practical stuff. Now, what do I print? Toys. But I print practical stuff too. There's stuff in the kitchen that we have over there, our spice racks, our banana rack. Even our paper towel holder, I 3D printed it because I can, for one, but two, medical application. Let's start with medical application is a big deal. So there are companies out there like Med Dimensions and stuff like that that have figured out how to take CT scans and MRIs and use it to create an organ or a bone or a trachea and 3D print a replica for surgery. But also, who's broken their arm before and had to wear that nasty cast for 6 weeks or however long? What if I told you that wasn't necessary anymore? Yeah, you may have to have the cast on for a week, but hospitals are capable to 3D print a frame that clips onto your arm and keeps your arm immobilized instead of that nasty plaster cast. Now, is it cost effective right now? Almost. We're almost there. But think about that. If I have a plastic splint instead of that cast, I can take a shower. My skin's not going to get all nasty. It helps. But also, prosthetic limbs. 3D printing has become very critical in the making of those type of limbs. And, you know, 3D printing, it's not just plastic anymore. Metal, fibrous concrete, chocolate, clay, porcelain. All that kind of stuff can go through a 3D printer in a similar mechanism. There's a machine called the Vulcan 2 that builds houses using fibrous concrete with a crew of 12 people. I mean, come on. The practical applications have gone everywhere. Think of if we actually build the moon base. Think about that. Any tool we need, because we can print metal, we can print plastics, and then using certain materials, we can print food from vegetable material. Think about that for a minute. If we had a hydroponics garden sitting on the moon that we could make the type paste of materials, we could 3D print our meals and store that. Kind of sounds like Star Trek almost to me, doesn't it? So kind of keep that in mind. Practical uses, it's all around you, you just don't know it. So keep that in mind as you kind of go into it. Now, most of the home people like me, yes, I print tools to do my modeling with. You guys have seen me have some 3D printed tools when I build model kits or when I'm working on the bench over there. My paintbrush holder, my airbrush holder, it's all 3D printed to make things and organize things for me. So 3D printing, it's practical. It just depends on how you yourself want to use it. You know, maybe you're a big fisher. 3D print your lures. Leave a space in there, put your lead weights so it behaves, and 3D print your own lures and that kind of stuff to help lessen your costs of going to Bass Pro Shop or the bait shop. But also, you know, just the simple things. You've got 10 fishing poles. You can print a holder and put it up on the wall and organize your poles, or have it racks made to be able to sit in your boat to hold stuff. Or organizers for your tackle box. There's all kinds of practical applications in anything that you do with this. So kind of keep that in mind. So I'm going to stop ranting. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and enjoyed this content. I know this is kind of new, kind of a different way of doing it, but I thought this was a kind of a good segue. I've been gone for a little while. I've been getting asked these questions a lot lately as I've been switching over to doing printing more and kind of working through some other stuff here. So I kind of felt I keep hearing these questions. So maybe it would help someone out here as well. So hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. And if there's another question that you get asked a bunch, pop it down in the comments, or feel free to shoot me an email at mike@rise3dprinting.com. So thank you guys. We'll check you out in the next video.